Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to SC Playbook, the EPL edition. That's right. I've been kitted out. We've got to get Matt Jurman one. We weren't expecting him here this week, but he has turned down a trip to Vietnam or something like that. We're framing it that way anyway, Matty.
Yeah, it's more important to be...
That's what I thought. Priority, availability is the best ability. This man's doing all right. In fantasy is in Supercoach this year as well. Welcome to SC Playbook, the EPL edition. Myself, Alex Molchanoff. Former Socceroo, Matt Jurman, current MacArthur Ball, still rolling through with us as the A-League season gets underway. Very glad to have your company. And just quickly, a shout out to Matty the Waterboy, who puts this all together and has said to us the entirety of this show, don't throw to me, I don't know anything, I'll add nothing. 153 scored this week, top 200 or top 250. Across the competition, Haaland, Reece James, Calafiori, Kyle Walker scoring at 222. Sorry, I do have it here. 214th overall. He's top 7K this season. Matty, what are you talking about, mate? You do know what you're doing. Is your mic plugged in? Can we go to you? No mics. So we'll continue on. And he did mean head-to-head as well, just to sweeten the deal this week, which was very, very disappointing. But Matty, it's me v you this week.
It is, yeah. Yeah, so... I'm just going to tell you the opposites to what I'm doing. Perfect.
Sounds good. That's basically what you did this week anyway. So we'll get into that as we get through the podcast. Great to have your company. As I said, no Garby. I don't know where he's gone. He's been kidnapped. He's being held for ransom in Dubai. We will get him back one day before the end of the season. Thankfully, we've got about 30 game weeks to go still, which is good for me as I continue my climb back up towards the top 10K overall. Matty Jurman's sitting all right, sitting around 2.9K at the moment, which you got the right to be happy with. Celebrate that.
Didn't make a move as much as Matty.
No, but you're still 600th weekly this week.
Yeah.
144 points brought in. And the one you dummied us on was the Gyökeres transfer, which you said you were going to bring through. Instead, talk us through it. What was the thinking?
Yeah, so I was having a feeling late on the weekend, and I just felt like Saka was the more suitable option. I could see that I could afford him without doing a boost, and I went down that road, and it's worked out all right for me.
Yeah, tidy little return. Arsenal assets, we've been talking about him for the last 2-3 weeks. An 11 score for the Arsenal winger as he regains fitness. I'm assuming it's the end of Sean Longstaff. I don't want to get too far into our trades, but a return of 8. He's up over 10 mil, so that has paid off for guys who traded in. And then your defence, Matty, just coming in massive. Munoz, 14. Cucurella, who you touted last weekend, 14. And Gabriel getting a goal. The most Arsenal of Arsenal victories against Fulham. So congratulations to you for that. I finally topped Garby with 112 points of my own this week, climbing back towards the top 10K. For people who've been reading the articles on the SC Playbook website, you'd know that. And a reminder, if you want to get all that good gear, more from Harry West, more from Steve Nikolovsky, more from Oscar Henderson, who's bringing you the wrap-up of all the key stats this week. You can get that all for just $2 a week. We've got the NBA starting this week, started yesterday. Alex Sumsky and Spy doing a great job on that podcast, and you can get their insights via the articles as well. So $2 a week, scplaybook.com.au. Subscribe is right up the top of the website when you get in there. But let's first turn to your beloved Liverpool, Matty. And the question that continues to confound Mohamed Salah after the 2-1 loss to Manchester United, big slabhead getting up there and getting himself a goal, Harry Maguire. Fantastic scenes for the Red Devils fans, a second straight win under Ruben Amorim for the first time in his tenure, remarkably. And the question on Salah continues. An average of 7.1 this season. He's now dropped to under 8 million to bring him in. I don't think anyone saw that coming. 9-2-4-5. His last 4 scores. Brentford away, Villa at home, City away. How are you feeling as an owner in a team that's pretty well performing, Matty? He's proving to be a weak link, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah, definitely didn't see that coming, especially in a red hot Liverpool team. The signings they've made. Salah obviously had a big season last year, and he's been the most underwhelming player in the starting 11 in the last month or so. So in saying that, it was bad loss on the weekend against our biggest rivals. I was actually so confident last pod, and I thought I thought they'd win at home 100%. So it was a bit very, very disappointing.
I haven't lost in 9 against Manchester United going into that game. So changes will be rung for Arne Slot. He did it this morning in the Champions League. Actually, nice that we've got a Thursday record so we can bring you all this information this week. He's gone with a front 3 there of Gakpo, Ekitike and Isak, all in together with Wirtz playing behind them. Szoboszlai back into midfield. Frimpong off injured. Remember him at the start of the year.
Good trade out, that one for you.
Yeah. I'm interested in, your thoughts on whether Salah will, retain his place in the team. I think we can expect that, but maybe this rotation will just help with his freshness a little bit because he looked off the mark, not getting a lot of touches on the ball against Manchester United, but even when he did, there was a lack of the cutting edge and the decisiveness that has made him such a great player in this competition.
Yeah, you're right. Usually you see him, get that 1 or 2 chances a game. If he's not in the game too much, but you see him score those chances all the time, and yeah, it's not happening for him at the moment. Obviously, we touched on a lot of things that he went through in the last 6 months or so, but yeah, in terms of the last few weeks, just hasn't been working out for Salah too much, and Liverpool as a team as well. They're not gelling as a team, and all their new signings aren't gelling either. So, yeah, it's with Salah, I think it's a tough one now. I think trading him out, you lose all that value, which is hard. You sort of you get him in, he's a value player, and I think he's lost about 7 mil now.
Yeah, started this season at 15. He's now sitting at 7.8 as we sit here today.
7.8 mil he's lost. That's a tough one because you miss all his value. But if you hold him and he brings that back, then you're laughing. But I think there's too many players that you can trade him out to increase your value in the squad. You see players like Mateta scoring a hat-trick on the weekend. And there's plenty of other ones that I think not far around the corner from scoring a hattie or at least a few goals in a game where they'll increase their value around that same mark, around 7-8 mil. So a lot of players that you could bring in for him. But yeah, at the same time, he's someone that you can just see turning around soon as well. So tough one. Especially for you because you just brought him in.
That's right. So I had him in at 10 mil. I've only lost the 3 mil in value. It hasn't killed me in terms of that, but the output is not there. I had someone cheekily suggest to me earlier today, before I came in for the record, that Cody Gakpo might be an option. Someone who's sitting at a -3 break even. He's only 300,000 more expensive than Salah as we sit here on Thursday, and coming off goal scoring form, scored in the Champions League again this morning. Is that a realistic option, or he's a pod at this stage? But there are worse options out there, I think.
Yeah, I think if you look at Liverpool, especially if you watched the game last week, he could have had 2-3 goals. He's hit the post, unfortunately, a few times, and if that goes in, then his score goes even higher than what he got on the weekend, which is 14. So, I mean, he's not far away from hitting those 20, 30 points in one game, and then his value goes up a couple of mil. So. Yeah, it's a good option, I think, if people are trying to move on Salah to someone a little bit more in form, which is Gakpo. So, yeah, him, and there's a few other ones that you could look at bringing in. Obviously, those ones as well with the low break evens. That could obviously going to go up in cash as well.
Let's give you a couple of them. Pedro Neto is one of the most high traded in for Chelsea. I'm concerned about whether he holds his position in that Chelsea team long term, but a guy who looks in form and obviously gets a goal last weekend. He's got 3 more points total for the season than Joao Pedro, who I'm still sitting there waiting for him to explode again. And then if you're looking at guys under 8 mil up front, there isn't a whole lot of options. The other one is perhaps Victor Gyökeres, who we talked about extensively last weekend as a low-cost Arsenal asset in a team that is going into a really positive run of games. The other one I had mentioned to me today was Morgan Rogers at Aston Villa, who's sitting at the same price as Salah at the moment, about that, or just under 7.3 mil. Having scored on the weekend as well in Aston Villa's win over Spurs. So there are a couple there. Are you still as high on Gyökeres as you were last week? What gave you that feeling in your gut to stay away?
It was more that I could afford to go Saka instead.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I mean, I still see him as a good option in these next few games. Probably, they play at home against Crystal Palace this week, and then they've got a few more.
Couple of away games, Burnley and then
Burnley,
Sunderland away.
Yeah, Burnley and Sunderland. I think, obviously Burnley away is not an easy game to go to, especially with their defensive record last year. But you can see them scoring goals, especially in those lower teams. And they're at home against Crystal Palace, which I think is probably game of the round this week.
Yes.
With how they're travelling as well. So, yeah, I definitely don't disregard Gyökeres as an option. I think he's definitely one to bring in. I think he's similar to Mateta.
Yes.
He's 1 or 2 weeks away from scoring in those 20, 30 points and increasing his value as well. So I was just trying to pick those players before they go big. And I think he's one that's definitely got that potential. And at his price point, it's not gonna hurt you too much if you have a gamble on him.
Last one I want to get your thought on is Danny Welbeck, who played superbly well for Brighton. We can talk about Mateta further down the track if you want as well, but he's sitting at that higher price range, just over 10 mil as we're recording this. Welbeck 7.4. Scored two brilliantly taken goals for Brighton on the weekend. And in a team, I've been very high on Brighton. I've got two of their players in at the moment in De Kuyper and Van Hacker at the back, who scored big despite the fact all those goals flew in. Manchester United coming up this week away from home for Brighton, which is very, very interesting. Danny's got a pretty good record against his old team.
Yeah, he's... for someone that's you feel like he's been around for a long time, like he's
not old, and he's not old either. I think he's just over 30.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, like you think he's been around a lot longer just because he's played that long in some bigger teams, and then now he's moved to Brighton, obviously, and yeah, I mean he's there's always some top players in Brighton that maybe they've moved on, but he's always one to stay there, and he always around the goals for them. And now against Man United. I'm not going to say too much about them because they've, obviously gone to Anfield and won against Liverpool. So maybe, they're in a good form at the moment and someone that you can maybe, not sort of so much bring players in against at the moment because they're looking a lot stronger than they started the season, so in the last month or so.
Ironic as well that Joao Pedro coming out of that team has actually opened up that spot for Welbeck, and he's taken it with both hands. He's been fantastic.
Fair play to him,
What a player. What a player. That's our forwards wrap up. Let's get into the midfielders quickly because both of us have decisions to make there this week. You've obviously got Sean Longstaff in there. We've hinted to the fact that maybe looking at getting him out. We're both owners of Tiani Reinders, who is starting to appear on most traded out lists. We'll get to that as we go through that later in the podcast. He's one that I'm certainly looking at to trade at the moment. And Xavi Simons is another one who me and Garby both brought in a couple of weeks ago. You're holding him as well, Matty. We were all expecting him to just take off to another level and really improve Spurs. It hasn't happened. So a couple of the options, I guess, to replace them in that midfield role, particularly if you're thinking about a couple of trades as I am this week. Bruno Guimaraes is someone who I've written about in the article for the SC Playbook website this weekend. Someone who was one of the highest ranked midfielders, would have been in this game 2 years ago, has obviously had some problems off the field and a bit of a form slump that followed that with Newcastle last season. How are you assessing them at the moment before we get to guys that are a bit higher price like Bowen, Caicedo and Bruno Fernandes? Guimaraes and Newcastle thought they looked an improved version of themselves on the weekend. And I think Guimaraes, when you look at his statistics and some of the underlying stuff he's doing, he's had key passes in each of his last 6 games. Someone who operates between the lines, is in attacking areas a lot, and now has Nick Voltemata playing in front of him, who is just banging in the goals for fun.
Yeah, just on that, I think he's another option that you can look at in the forward line. But Bruno's he's always in those shooting positions.
Yes.
He's quite up there with the goals and assists as well. For Newcastle, he's amongst it all. And yeah, I mean, I don't think too many people will be looking at this, but he could be a decent option with Fulham, West Ham, and Brentford coming up, they're definitely games that Newcastle can win, and he could score big in. So yeah, that's an option that I think some people won't be looking at, but yeah, definitely could be a good one to downgrade someone like Longstaff, or you might need to put in a little bit more money to get rid of Reinders, but yeah, overall I don't mind that.
I'm almost thinking a like for like there, because they're sitting around that same price at the moment, and that gives me a little bit of leeway to maybe go to one of the low ranges without costing myself too much initially in terms of points, particularly because if you do go for one of the bigger boys at the moment, you're talking your Jared Bowens, who I don't have a heap of confidence in at the moment just because of West Ham. I mean, full stop. And the fact is, well, we saw him starting up front almost as an out-and-out 9 for a little while. Now that Nuno's come in, they've got Nicholas Fulkrug there, who generally fills the centre forwards role, and though he's not a big scorer himself, takes a lot of room away from those guys operating centrally. I think the way Nuno sets up his teams, he's going to be someone he persists with. And Bowen, look, he's been a consistent performer. There's no doubt about that. But I do just worry about the amount of attacking football they're going to be able to play. Their run, Leeds away, Newcastle at home, Burnley at home, Bournemouth away is not the most difficult. That's the only thing swinging back in their favour. I think I need to see it first, particularly when you're investing 10 mil for a midfielder at the moment. They haven't been the big scorers in Supercoach so far this season. Yeah,
I think... those West Ham options, the Paqueta or Bowen, they could score big this week playing against Leeds, right? But
the only thing that worries me about that too, Leeds away. It's not Leeds at the Olympic Stadium. Right. Ellen Road has been somewhere they've played pretty well. Now, I think there's been a drop in their form recently, but when they return home, they just look a different side. Newcastle aren't going to be easy beats. Burnley at home, okay, that looks a bit more straightforward. And Bournemouth, again, are just that team who, on their day, I know they didn't have that day over the weekend, conceded 3, but have looked a little bit more consistent defensively than we expected at the start of the year. Anything more to add on Bowen and West Ham, or can I take you to Bruno Fernandes?
Just in Bowen, I think... Yeah. If you bring him in this week, they've got Leeds and Burnley in the next 3 games. Newcastle in between there. But I think out of those 2 games against Leeds and Burnley, they're going to back themselves to get a result, and they might need to be able to stay up this year. They're near the bottom, so those games against nearly promoted teams, they're very important, and they're almost 6-pointers. So yeah, I think if you're going to bring him in, it could be one of those ones that I've mentioned where they score big and then, the price goes up in a couple of mil straight away. So you try and jump on those ones. But, at that price for Bowman is quite high to have that gamble. So probably, stay away unless you're taking a gamble on West Ham having a big win.
Maybe a little bit less of a gamble. Bruno Fernandes, who I was strong on trading out a couple of weeks ago. For the most part, I think it's worked to this point where his value has dropped to under 9 mil. And so suddenly his value again. We saw the performance against Liverpool where he wasn't in the goals himself, but was instrumental in the victory, which he always is when United are playing well. He's still on penalties, but despite the 2 he's missed this season. And the underlying statistics are quite impressive. He's got 2 goals and the assist over the last 4 weeks, 6 key passes in that period. I don't love the position still that Ruben Amorim is playing him in, but the fact of the matter is that means he's getting into duels, he's making tackles, he's getting those defensive action points as well that he probably wouldn't be was he higher up the pitch. So I can certainly understand the argument. I'm taking a bit of a flyer because I need to go against the grain in certain positions just with where I'm sitting at the moment. But I can certainly understand the argument. I'm nowhere near as far against him as I was a month ago, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think, he's sort of one of those midfielders along with Caicedo and... what's his name from Arsenal?
Not Rice or Eze? Rice, yeah.
These guys, you can sort of set and forget.
Yeah.
Once you've built enough cash, I feel like for me, they're ones that I can bring in once I've built up enough cash, because midfielders are less of a priority than defenders and the forwards for me. So once I build up enough cash, there could be guys I'll be looking at targeting to just bring in and leave there, I think.
Caicedo's the other one I wanted to mention quickly, up to 23% ownership. He's been fantastic in Chelsea's team, and we've talked about it with Joao Pedro quickly. Sunderland at home, Spurs away, Wolves at home, Burnley away, their next 4. So that's 2 promoted teams, and one in Wolves who I think are going to be relegated this season because they just have looked that shocking. Scored that brilliant goal against Liverpool, not to keep bringing up players who are doing well against the Reds at the moment, but he was fantastic in that moment. So the mid to high ranges, I think we'll call that quartet. Have a look at those. I would suggest if you're intent on trading out Tiani Reinders at the moment, I'll clue you into what I'm thinking with my trades this week. I'm thinking a double in midfield, which will give me some leeway to have a look at some of the cashies that have been floating around off the back of performances this weekend. The second most traded player in Supercoach so far this week, Leslie Ogukchu, someone I'm struggling to pronounce his name. I hadn't heard of him before the season. He's sitting in that 5.7 mil slot at the moment. Fantastic on the weekend for Burnley. And look, they continue to perform, I think, above expectations, Matty. We saw Kyle Walker get a massive return for you. I had Quindalisi Hartman, who continues to just keep going. Sorry, you don't have Kyle. I'm thinking of Matty the Waterboy over there. Mate, you're just sitting in my peripheral at the moment. I don't know what he was thinking holding him, but gee whiz, has it paid off. He's playing in a midfield, again, as a screener, so the base points have actually been quite solid. It's just those explosions. Again, if you're looking, you've just had long stuff in and you want to go right to the bottom again and try and keep building value, it's still early enough. I should mention, it's still early enough in the season to be doing that. Like, people are trying to bed down squads on that. This is a long season. This is not the NRL. We're not a third of the way through. Like, we're still in the opening quarter. So you still can afford to make little moves like that, particularly if you are sitting well with the rest of your team. Burnley, I'm not sure that's the move for me, but hey, I can see people's view on that. Anything you want to add there, or can I move to Mason Mount?
I mean, just on Burnley, they're playing against Wolves this week, right? So
yes, you're right.
That's another way to, for him to increase his value. If you want to do him as a 1-2 week play, or even I've got West Ham after Wolves, but after that they got West Ham. Arsenal. They got Wolves, Arsenal, West Ham. So yes, I mean, if you're having a 3-week play, that's not a bad option. So someone that you want to downgrade, or even for me, I'm looking at someone like that for potentially like Rodri or someone like that. It's sort of not really making too much money. He's been injured again, and you sort of you want to be trying to make as much value around the whole squad. So yeah, he's one I'm looking at just for a short-term play.
Just on the projections there that we're seeing up here, and I'm not one, as people know, to be diving into data and all that sort of stuff, but he's got the -14 break even this weekend. He's expected to have around a -2 to -6, depending on how that goes against Arsenal the week after, and then suddenly he'll be needing to score points. So when we talk about short-term trades, it's going to be the shortest of term trades. So just be thinking about that when you're doing your costings. Mason Mount's a really interesting one for me. Has slipped into the top 10 most traded in this week off the back of the solid performance against Liverpool on the weekend. I'm interested in your thoughts around his role in this Amorim team from what you saw on the weekend. I think this is more similar to the role he was playing at Chelsea when he really was one of the outstanding performers in the Premier League, being picked for England, having 2 wing-backs running outside him, being able to drift and have a little bit more free reign, knowing he's got Fernandes and Casemiro behind him. I think there's real upside here. He's sitting just over the 5 mil mark at the moment, and someone you'll be able to hold on to for a little bit longer than some of the others that will be mentioned around the cashies this week. And I think the fact we've got the midfield so far in focus, given the amount of underperforming players there, if he can recapture even a fraction of that former glory, then I think he could be a really astute pickup. But we know for Manchester United, success seems to be fleeting. So you've got to weigh all that up. How did you see his performance on the weekend.
Yeah, I think if you can get anywhere close to that Chelsea form, you're looking at a bargain buy there, and someone that you can hold at least. They're playing against Brighton. Yeah, I know they're a good team. Then they got Nottingham. You don't know what's going to be different with them, with the new coach coming in, and then Tottenham. Obviously, you've got no idea. So. For me, if he's playing in that position where he can get goals and assists, that's someone that you could definitely downgrade to or take a bit of a gamble on with one of those midfielders, especially Xavi Simons.
Yeah,
someone that's not really giving you too much at the moment. But yeah, he's a good shout. I think he's going to keep growing into his role, and hopefully takes that confidence from the last few games, into the next month or so, and hopefully holds his position and doesn't get too many little niggles. That's been his problem at Man United the last few seasons. He just couldn't get his body right.
Yeah, and he's been in the side for those 2 wins. I think Amorim has now finally conceded that he might be someone that's able to help him. He's not running out games, which does leave me a little bit worried. Yeah. He's just played the hour in both that game against Sunderland and Liverpool. So I'll offer the counter argument as well to my pro argument before, that is a real watch, and you make a really good point about his body, which just hasn't held up. I still think there's a quality player in there. He's obviously not going to be near set pieces. He's going to be a guy that's going to need to explode for points because his base statistics are nigh on non-existent. But again, I think I was looking at stats this week. If you applied the Supercoach statistics to his 2021 and 2022 seasons, it would have been top 5 in the game. Yeah, wow. So you are looking for a return to that sort of form to make him a holder over the entirety of the season, but I certainly think he's someone that could come in and make a difference for you over the rest of the month. The other one I want to mention quickly is Ryan Christie. Love watching him, and played very well again in that Bournemouth team over the weekend, got the goal. He's sitting at 4.9 mil with a -1 break even, heading into a clash with Nottingham Forest. That all lines up very nicely. And Bournemouth again are a team, I think, that are continuing to just stick around and perform consistently enough to make their players of value. You've got Senesi in at the back at the moment, yep. But they obviously had a disappointing day defensively, but that has very much been the outlier on their season so far. Their last couple of seasons, I think you can sort of bring that in as well there. And if he scores against Forest, then he's someone that can turn into a hold for the next month or so with clashes against Villa, West Ham, Sunderland, Everton. The only thing really breaking that up is a trip to the Etihad to face Man City in 2 weeks' time. But a score against Forest should sort of protect against anything that happens against Manchester City in terms of a value-building view.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that shout, but you also look at his scores this season.
Yes.
They haven't been
massive
anywhere. They haven't been double figures until last week.
Yep.
So, can you rely on him to get those double figures again? Maybe, against Forest, potentially, but I think it could be a different Forest.
They're not exactly, I talk about the defence, they haven't been playing. I mentioned the worries I have in terms of Jared Bowen getting into attacking positions. I think you can apply those same arguments to Ryan Christie at Bournemouth. The last one I want to mention, and it's interesting because you were the one who brought up Rodri, is the guy who's taken his place, Nico Gonzalez, who does have the base statistics behind him. He's not going to be a big scorer for you, but sitting at just under the 5 mil mark this week as well. Is he going to be getting a run in the team? I can see him doing that with the news around Rodri supposedly being that he's not expected back for another couple of weeks at least. Unlikely, Guardiola saying in press this week that he'll be fit to even make the bench, I think, against Villa this weekend. So Gonzalez, I think, is the only real replacement for him in that City squad.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that defensive mind where he's, breaks up play and does similar things to what Rodri does, what he does for the team. Similar to Christie, hasn't really scored too well this season, but
I think I'm looking at the last 3 weeks to interject that. So the 6 against Burnley, okay, you're at home. 6 against Brentford, 8 against Everton. If they're keeping a clean sheet, he's getting that additional point. He's growing more for you and he's not that high risk, high reward guy. He's not going to explode for points, but I think he can give you a level of solidity where his numbers are going to be going up really for the next month, at the very least, until Rodri's back in that side or he reaches a ceiling in terms of price.
Yeah, and I think I get what you're saying. Yeah, if you're looking at getting rid of Rodri and players around that sort of same value, I can see why you would do that, because he's going to increase maybe slowly, but he'll at least increase a lot more than players like Rodri and that who have been injured and going to be in and out of the team, maybe off the bench for 30 minutes to try and integrate him back in the team. So yeah, he could be an option if you're looking to for someone around that 5 mil who's going to have a bit of a slow burn, unlikely to score goals.
Yes,
but still you never know. And then you can put him onto someone else who's going to be a keeper maybe,
or move him back to Rodri when he comes back into the team, right? Yeah. So hey, just a thought. I need to see Rodri fit.
I know.
It's just hasn't happened. Basically, since he won the Ballon d'Or, his body's not been right, which is
it's a shame because he's such a good player. Yeah, and he brings so much to not only Man City but to Spain as well. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully he can get his body right and the fans can see him out there again. But one more I got for you from
hit me
Man City, Foden.
Right.
What are your thoughts on him?
Just not starting consistently enough. That's my only worry, because we know the quality's there. 2 seasons ago was the best player in England, really best player in the Premier League. So there's no doubt on his quality when he is fit and in form, which was really the thing that dropped off. He has had 2 lots of 90 minutes the last 3, 4. We're looking 3, 4 straight starts for him, which is nice. It's just the fact that the end output hasn't been there. 1 shot on target over the course of that time, and you're looking at, improved scores, right? But what are you looking at in terms of, is there a reason that he's piqued your interest? Not to just shit on your idea, shoot him down, mate. Sorry,
one out of the blue, Yeah. If you're downgrading Longstaff or someone like that. He doesn't have great fixtures, but I always, especially in the last month or so, he's been starting. And, I think it's just an amount of time before he comes with a big score.
Yeah.
I think you've got to try and look for those sort of players that haven't scored big yet, but they're about to. And I think he could go big at any time, regardless of who they're playing. Man City is Man City. So, they've got a few tough games coming up against Bournemouth and Liverpool after Villa, but I think overall, he's a type of player when you're playing and starting for Man City, and you got Haaland there as well, where you can always, bank on an assist. It's someone that you could maybe look at.
Just having a quick look at his underlying stats too. You're spot on in saying they've improved as well. He's had 5 key passes in the last 3 weeks, 5 accurate crosses, which is scoring for in all those situations. It also means he's more likely to start picking up assists and hopefully scoring a couple of goals as well. He hasn't been shooting still as much as you'd probably like to see. But one that really costs you, the sneaky point coster for midfielders, is dispossessions. He's had 2 of them over the last, 3 of them over the entirety of the season, 2 of them over the last 3 weeks when he's been in that little run in the team. So maybe you're onto something, Matty. Maybe I should have been more open-minded. 7.8 at the moment. The break even, as I get that back up, is at 5 going into a game away at Villa. I think he's someone, if you're bringing him in, you're putting a lot of faith. That is one thing. I don't think he's someone you're bringing in for 2-3 weeks to try and really hit you up. I think he's someone you've got to have faith in to score consistently for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and he's someone that you could move on his teammate Reinders to as well, around the same value.
Yep.
But probably can create more with his.
You're right in that sense. I think he's got more upside.
Yeah.
It's just whether he's able to keep this run in the team. Although Reinders, who was looking like a favourite of Pep earlier in the year, has suddenly had a couple of substitutions the last few weeks, and his form has just been so worrying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard with the pep roulette,
Yes, and that's it. Still got Champions League football going into. I mean, and this is a big thing for those of you new to EPL. November, what do they say? September football lies. October, everybody's starting to get into some rhythm, and then November is really where you get a lot of European fixtures, a lot of cup football. And suddenly the games start to pile up. So you do tend to see a little bit more rotation at this stage of the year. So that's going to be one to watch. I don't mind it. Yeah. You've talked me round.
Just a little gamble.
Along with the statistics, you've talked me around on that one a little bit more than I had at the start of the year. I think I'm still edging towards Gamma Race, but we can talk about that once we get down to the trades for the week. Let's have a look at some of the most traded in, some of the most popular players over the course of the weekend. I don't think there's any surprise to see Reece James's name at the top of the list, into the team, looking fit, gets the goal, was just superb in an attacking sense, in a Chelsea team that looked a lot more fluent. Bizarre red card to Malo Gusto in that game as well. I don't know if you caught that. Just a completely needless second yellow card, and I think it was 2 yellows in 5 minutes or something ridiculous for him. Starting in midfield again, he's a complete head scratcher with what Enzo Maresca is doing with him. Regardless, James looks to be back in form. Yep. He's one of the leaders of that Chelsea team. And if you can pick him up at this 8.5 mil, I think he's only going to keep going up in price. So this is the time to jump in with Chelsea's run of fixtures, as we mentioned. I can see him retaining that spot in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, Reece James has always been a top player. Just, being similar to, what's his name from United we're talking about?
Mason Mount, former teammate.
Yeah, similar to him. He couldn't get his body right the last 2-3 seasons, and, it's been good to see him have a good run of fixtures with Chelsea and in England, and obviously get on the score sheet on the weekend. So Matty's had him in his team for 4 or 5 weeks.
He's held it. What a patient man he is. Been brilliant.
So it's paid off, and I think he's someone that if he keeps his body right, he's playing every game for Chelsea. In my opinion, he's one of the best players in the team, and as an attacking fullback, he's always got assists around him. But to get it on the score sheet as well, he's someone that you could definitely rely on for points.
And he could be one of those ones that we're starting to talk about as one of the top defenders in the game as we get into the season. Behind him, and this was so interesting to me, the number 3, we've talked about Ugochukwu. I will get there eventually in terms of that pronunciation. Number 3 most traded in this week is Robert Sanchez, the Chelsea goalkeeper. Yeah. After the red card, after the madness of the last few weeks, seeing Chelsea's run, I don't think there's too many people that are looking to make moves on their goalkeepers at this point in time, but that caught my eye, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on if there was any way you consider bringing him in. I think the only other thing that people might have looked at is the fact that he could be a goalkeeper that's used as a bit of someone you can use in your captaincy double shots, sitting at that 3.8 and knowing that Chelsea are going to have some later kickoffs, playing in a lot of European football over the next month. That was the only other explanation I could come up with for the reason he's so sought after this week, which I really wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Chelsea players and the Chelsea fixtures, I can understand why they're looking at him, because the value that he has, it's gone down so far now. And just looking at who he's traded out for, you can see Vicario from Tottenham, Alisson obviously he's injured. Yep. And Petrovic from Bournemouth, which is a bit of a...
I think that's a bit of a gunslinger's take to one poor performance from the Bournemouth goalkeeper. But anyway...
Yeah, but I think if you're transferring him out for those two, which is most people that I'm looking at now, I can understand why you get a bit of value there from the cash that you make, and I see his value going up in the next month or so with the fixtures that Chelsea have. Hopefully, for those people bringing him in, a few clean sheets, I can understand why he sort of make some money, and you can sort of leave him there without having to worry about clean sheets and stuff because he's going to play and he's going to get those points in the next month.
I've just debunked my double shot take it with most of their games being Saturday nights basically until December. So you can excuse me for that little they're playing a lot of the earlier kickoffs at the moment. So not moving him in for that reason at the moment, but. Certainly one to keep an eye on. And yeah, if you're in that position where your goalkeeper's suddenly fallen out of form in terms of a Vicario or an Allison and you want to upgrade elsewhere, but that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
You can see he's had a few minus points in those games where they've had the red cards. I think it was. So you can understand that the values come down, which is they're the type of players you've got to be looking at to try and you get on a cheap and they're going to make money, and they're also players that you can hold for most part of the season as well.
Nick Voltemade is down there at number 6. We touched on him briefly before. 8.7 mil. What a player. Just plenty of flair. We've talked about why we like him as a footballer.
What a finish.
Plenty, and what a finish on the weekend. I think Newcastle are moving really strongly in the right direction with a number of winnable games over the next month. Is there anyone that catches your eye as someone you'd be moving out for him, though? You're sitting around that 8.7 mil. There's not a lot in that bracket up front. It's sort of a downgrade move, or you're having to expend a little bit extra if that's your move for Mohamed Salah this week.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to my own team, Salah's got to be the only one that you're looking at moving on for him, which is, like we spoke about, is tricky. It's a tricky one at the moment with the amount of money that he's lost. But in saying that, he could still lose more.
That's right.
So it's not a bad option to bring him in. I like Newcastle. I like how he's come in and he's starting every week, and their next 3 weeks quite winnable games as well. So I mean, he's going to take confidence from that finish on the weekend. It was you don't see many players think that way when they get a ball behind them like that. But yeah, that's all it takes in the boxes. It's a bit of a flick or whatnot, and the goalkeepers don't have time to react when they see something like that. So
can you talk to how difficult it is to mark a guy like that who can just throw something at you? I'm trying to think of an example that you would have played against in your career in the A-League. Someone who's sort of, Best springs to mind, but he was more just heart and aggression, wasn't he? Someone you didn't like playing against.
Fornaroli's
the one.
Yeah,
there you go.
He's sort of got that in him where you can, he'll pick something out. He does Rabonas and type of things. He's not really.
You can't plan for it. You can't plan for him, can you?
No, you can't. I mean, these guys, they're in the box. They're thinking outside what a normal player thinks, and that's that type of flair that they bring to the game. And he's one of them. They spent big money on bringing him in, and I mean, he's scored more goals than the guy that left.
That's right.
So that's it's not good for me, but it's good for Newcastle. They're going to be happy with that.
He's going to be a watch, Isaac, as this season goes on, because if he does start to bet into this Liverpool team, but he keeps dropping in value, suddenly there could be some people around Christmas time that are looking to pounce there. A couple of other forwards. Number 8 is Jean-Paul Mateta. Fantastic weekend for him, coming off a hat-trick. The break-even's low. He's sitting at 10 mil, though. So it's a big investment. Would there be any Semenyo owners out there just having a cheeky glance sideways at the moment? That would be my one thought on Mateta and where he's sitting in a Palace team that are going really well, getting him a lot of service up front versus Bournemouth, who we've talked about. I know they got the 3 goals on the weekend, but are not firing that ball forward quite as often.
Yeah, Semenyo is a tough one because he's
been an outstanding performer, right? Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Yeah,
I mean, he didn't score on the weekend, but he's always around it. And he's the type of player that can just pick something out of nothing. And but in saying that, I don't mind the trade, but I wouldn't do it if I was Semenyo owner. You can make 4 mil on the trade, but. I think I don't really begrudge anyone looking at bringing Mateta in, especially with the form. Obviously playing against Arsenal this week, but I don't mind Crystal Palace for a bit of an upset.
I tend to agree. I tend to agree. They've made life very uncomfortable for the big boys every time they played them over the last year or so. Spot on there. The other one that's in there, we touched on Pedro Neto quickly, just going to be a case of whether he can hold his place in the team more than anything. And that's the only reason I'd be hesitant there. His price is not going to shoot up in any case. Just be holding there. And let's just quickly go to some of the traded outs, and this will lend itself nicely into our discussion about trades for this week. Mickey van der Ven, most traded out this week, 6.9 mil. Are there any defenders that you're sort of looking at, Matty, that you've lined up yet to replace him? I don't think there can be any argument made against trading him out at this point, given Spurs just decline really in terms of their defensive work.
I am looking at trading him out. He's one of the ones on the chopping block. The ones I'm looking at are Reece James, if I can create some value from the Longstaff trade out, or Kyle Walker, and he's someone that you can downgrade quite a bit, and that increases money somewhere else. Maybe that Salah to Mateta trade might work out well if I was to do that. So those two are the ones I don't mind this week. Reece James is a bit of a longer hold. Kyle Walker, you can sort of not have to play every week, but he's got a few good games coming up as well against Wolves. You could play him this week. So yeah, those are the two trades I'd look at for Van der Ven.
Yep. Any of these catch your eyes? Someone people should be holding. I don't think there's too much argument about Sean Longstaff at 10.9 mil. He has done his job for us in Supercoach so far this season. Jack Grealish at 8.8 mil. Obviously didn't play against City because you're not allowed to. Yep. But your thoughts on him? I was surprised to see him with that many people making a move on him at this stage, given the way he started the season. I know Everton haven't been great, but they could still pick up. Yeah,
I think, even with Longstaff, you could even hold him for another week. They're playing against West Ham at home.
Yep, fair.
He's shooting from outside the box. He could be due another big price.
Yep.
But, if you're looking at other options for a longer term, he's definitely a trade out this week. And I don't mind as well from Everton.
Yes.
He's looking sharp and
former Sheffield United player. I know him very well. Fantastic talent. Fantastic.
I think he's due a big score in the next few games. They've got not a bad run. He could be one that you're looking at trading in. Sorry.
Yep.
But yeah, I think any of those options for Longstaff aren't a bad option. And then, like the ones that we spoke about before, Foden.
Just running,
Menendez.
Yeah, I like those mid. I don't think we haven't touted too many midfielders today that I could talk you out of. To be honest, there's a lot of value to be found in that area of the field at the moment, just given how close everybody seems to be to one another. Vicario, we've spoken about with Spurs' defensive issues at the moment. I can completely understand why people are looking to spend cash elsewhere and move him on. Truffert at Bournemouth, obviously coming off a tough week, but again, just be wary. I know there's good options at the back there that you can pick up and maybe make the slight upgrade to. Gravenberch has obviously come back with that injury. Missed the Champions League game again this week, unlikely for the weekend. So that's continuing to drag out. And at 9.8 mil, there's plenty, as we've mentioned in this podcast, that you can bring in to replace him. Salah still sitting at that 7. We had that discussion off the top. Pape Sarr, Reinders, we've had that discussion as well. And Santiago Bueno has featured in the top 10 as well. Some quick to move after being quick to move in there. A couple of injury updates to bring you. We know about Cole Palmer, Martin Odegaard, Gravenberch I've just mentioned. Christian Romero, good chance to be fit for the weekend, which I guess for people who are holding Spurs options, that could be a bonus. And Rodri, we mentioned earlier as well, unlikely to be fit for this weekend against Villa. I still think a few weeks away from being back in that starting lineup with the way that Nico Gonzalez is playing. So, to the key part of the podcast. Frimpong out, subbed early, if anyone's still holding him. And you hadn't got rid of him yet, now is the time. It's actually probably about a month late. Yeah. Let's get to the trade plans for this week. Matty, you've mentioned a couple. Van der Ven, I think, is the first point of order. Who is coming in?
Yep. Well, I haven't made a decision yet, but it will be either Reece James or Kyle Walker.
Okay.
Yep.
Making the serious. You're edging towards one as we sit here?
Probably Reece James.
Yeah. I tend to agree.
I'll bring him in and even might go to 5 at the back. Well.
Oh, here he goes again. It's worked for you in the past plenty of times. That the only trade this week? No?
That's one of them, especially with Van de Ven losing some value with that one last week. And then either Longstaff or Salah out. For Longstaff, I'm looking at...
Really interested in your thoughts on Longstaff, and I love that tip that he could be worth hanging on for one more week.
You know, I might hold him actually.
Okay,
Longstaff against West Ham at home. I sort of back him to maybe even get a result there. Salah could be the one.
Interesting.
I mean, it depends if I have enough money to bring Mateta in.
Yep.
Otherwise. Walter Made or even
Gakpo. Yeah, I had that touted to me earlier today, and it hadn't even crossed my mind. Yeah. And the more I'm thinking about it, I'm going, this is a guy in real good form. Liverpool, I think you can expect a turn in their form. And he seems to be a real favourite of Arne Slot because of the work rate, because of the fact that he's getting in so many good goal-scoring positions and providing a little bit as well. It's been really, really exciting. So... keen to see you steer off in another direction, and we'll come back next week and you've done something completely different. But that sounds a solid base to start the week on. As I mentioned, Reinders, end of the road. Yep. Simmons likely to go with him. I'm not holding on for Spurs any longer. I really am a little bit worried about their direction at the moment. Bruno Guimaraes and Mason Mount, I think, are going to be the two that come in. We're looking for those attacking focused players. Guimaraes, base stats have actually been fairly solid through the start of the season as well. He's scoring consistently. He plays 90 minutes every week. He's the heart and soul of a Newcastle team that are playing Champions League football, but I think that's actually raising his level somewhat, the fact that he's playing that standard of game week on week, and he just looks a footballer to me that wants to play as much as possible. Plays with fight, heart, all that sort of stuff that the eye test loves. And Mount, I've got to make a gamble somewhere. I think that he could be the answer for United if he continues to play in that 10 role. I may wait to see if we can get starting lineups in before I make that trade, but I'm very keen on him and what he can produce due to what he's done in the past. Captaincy plans, Matty. What's the thought this week? Is it anything outside Holland, or can you give us something exciting?
Nah, can't go past Holland. Can't go past Holland at the moment.
You do have a double shot this week with Tyra, so the vice captaincy is important for one of those games. I'll get them up quickly that are being played on the Saturday night, our time. It's actually kicking off Saturday morning this week. Leeds versus West Ham. Then the Sunday morning games, Australian time, the 1 o'clock kickoffs, Chelsea versus Sunderland, Newcastle versus Fulham, Manchester United versus Brighton, and Brentford versus Liverpool. So not a massive range of teams in action, but I still think enough to choose from as a second option.
Yeah, look, I'd be looking at VC on, what's his name? Reece James, if I bring him in.
Okay.
Or Cucurella again, and the Capitano on Haaland.
Yep.
He's too reliable at the moment, and yeah, I mean, you can always have a bit of a gamble on someone like Saka, but for me, I'm sticking with Haaland.
I really like that Chelsea option. I'm going to stick the VC on Joao Pedro and see if he can perform against Sunderland. I did think about, I think I wrote in my piece this week, Bruno Guimaraes, just in the hope that he explodes straight away against Fulham at home, but I'm just coming that down a little bit. I think Joao Pedro could score a couple against Sunderland, all being right. He's due a goal, my goodness. And then Haaland taking on Aston Villa away from home. So ride it with us, baby. Ride it with us, everybody who's sitting with them. I think there's about 60% of us owning him in Supercoach at the moment. And if you aren't, well, you're riding him to lose. We'll see how that all goes over the weekend. Your bench, Matty, is any players you're certain that you'll be leaving out this week?
Yep. Rodri.
Yes.
Josh King. Obviously Tyra.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Maybe if you can
do the double switch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do the
double take.
VC.
Double chance. Yep.
Loop. And then I have to pick out of. Maybe one of the defenders or just depends if I bring Reece James in, which I'm looking at doing.
Then it'll be 5 at the back.
Maybe Xavi Simons on the bench.
Hold him for 1 more week, see if he can perform for you. For me, King, Mount, and Joachim Anderson, who needs to get out of there sooner rather than later, but they did defend better against Arsenal over the weekend. So we'll see if Fulham can turn that around. Been good having your company again, Matty. Thank you very much. Been good having your company as well, wherever you're listening from. Thank you, or watching. Nice to have you part of EPL Supercoach, the SC Playbook edition, or something like that. I think I got my words around the wrong way. We'll try and get them right for next week when we preview game week 10 with Matty, maybe Garby. We'll see how everything's going. But until next week, thank you very much and goodbye.